So the Clippers found their guy. They hired Ty Lue to a 5-year deal. That's the wild thing to look at first. 5 years for Ty Lue. If you forced me to pick on whether he actually lasts all 5 of those years or not, I would say no. Mainly because how many coaches really do last that long besides the top guys, you know? So that's the first thing. I mean, this is a hell of a commitment for a guy who is not considered to be one of the better coaches in the NBA. I would put Ty Lue into the mix of all the okay, not great coaches around the league. I know the guy's been to a few finals, so we can give him credit for that. I mean, the obvious thing to think about first is Ty Lue's ability to connect with players. That was the big difference between him and David Blatt. And you could argue that's what this Clippers team really needs, because their lack of togetherness in the playoffs was pretty apparent with how Dallas pushed them to 6, and then we of course know what happened against Denver in the second round. The thing that I would say though is, while you can have a coach who is very good at connecting with players and bringing everybody together and all that, at a certain point it is still on the players. And I think you're still looking for leadership on that team from the players. And I mean, if you want Kawhi to be your leader, I just don't know if that's going to happen. I think Kawhi's got to prove a little bit more that he can be a guy who brings everybody together rather than just be amazing but not talk to anybody. But for the sake of the Clippers front office, they can't change Kawhi's personality, but they can, of course, change the coach. So this is their attempt at getting that going in the right direction, I guess. I mean, given how much Ty Lue's players liked him in Cleveland, I'll assume the same thing happens this time around. The fact that he's already been there, I'm sure, helps. And, I mean, in terms of the personality stuff and what Ty Lue brings, maybe that's all this Clippers team really needs. Like, maybe the team is talented enough to where the X's and O's stuff, while it of course still matters, it might not be the most important thing with this team. Like, maybe you can win a title through just Kawhi and PG, ISOs, pick and rolls, occasional stuff off the ball, your Lou Will basic sets as well. I don't know. I mean, I think that's being a little optimistic. I think we did see their lack of a complex offense exposed against Denver, combined with some of the personality problems that have since come out about this team. Not as if they hated each other, but more so they just seemed like a bunch of guys wearing the same jersey as opposed to all being a team, as cliche as I guess that can be. But anyway, if we do talk about Ty Lue's potential X's and O's, I mean, it is tough because he coached LeBron. So there are times when the play is just, LeBron, please be LeBron. But I do think there were some things to remember about Ty Lue's time. Number one, he played LeBron a hell of a lot of minutes, to the point where it was a bit of a controversy at times, where people were constantly asking him, hey, are you going to play LeBron less minutes? And at a certain point, Ty Lue just decided, well, we suck when LeBron sits, so I'll just never sit him. In LeBron's last 2 seasons with the Cavs, at 32 years old, he played 38 minutes a game in the regular season, 37 in his last season with Cleveland. In the playoffs, it was even higher than that. It was in the 42 minutes a game range. So maybe Ty Lue just has a philosophy of, if your star player is available, he's going to play a lot of minutes. Or he might have just been doing that out of necessity because they had no other options with the roster around LeBron, especially that last season. Or he may just have the belief of, if your star player is good to go, then you're going to play. And sometimes you'll play a lot of minutes. There's a chance that Ty Lue is kind of in the Tom Thibodeau school of thinking with that one. As far as how that intertwines with Kawhi's quad, I don't think it'd be too big of a deal. I think if Kawhi needs to sit, Ty Lue would sit him. I don't think Ty Lue is going to put him out there in a regular season game if Kawhi should be sitting based on whatever charts Kawhi and the medical staff have about his workload and all that stuff. The other thing that I remember about Ty Lue's time with Cleveland was that whenever things would get tough, he would always choose to go to an offense-first lineup as opposed to a defense-first one. I mean, there were lineups that the Cavs would put out there, especially in their last season, when they had no big guy. Or if there was a big, then it was going to be Kevin Love, who was spacing the floor a lot of the time. He didn't really love playing 2 bigs, or if it was a big, it was Kevin Love. So you could look at that and say that Ty Lue has got a pretty decent grasp on modern basketball in terms of spacing and all that good stuff. I don't think we're going to see some like big difference where Montrez is playing with Zubats. Ty Lue also moved Tristan Thompson to center in the 2017 season. Some of it was out of necessity because Mozgov just stopped being good. But I do think that could show that he's got an appreciation for that sort of a big guy. The type of big that you could argue the Clippers needed more of, a.k.a. Zubats. That sort of center who's not as offensive-minded, which, Doc chose to go with Montrez more often against the Clippers, and the lineup data would tell you that was their downfall against Denver and Jokic. Now, I guess this goes along with what I said earlier about how they usually chose offense over defense. In all of Ty Lue's time with Cleveland, they were only a good defensive team his first year. The last 2 years, they were not good on defense kind of at all, especially the last season. They were 29th in defensive rating. You could say that was because of LeBron not buying in. You could say it was Ty Lue not emphasizing it enough. You could argue Ty Lue just doesn't really have it on defense like that. To be honest, I don't really remember the intricacies of Ty Lue's defense. Like, did he prefer drop coverages? Did they switch everything? Did they trap? I don't really remember. But the Clippers are equipped to do a whole bunch of things. The one time I remember the Clippers defense looking as great as advertised was when they played the Rockets, I think in the regular season. Well, it would have had to have been. They didn't play him in the playoffs. So they did some sort of zone defense around Harden where they would double team him, and then they would have the other three guys stand in such a way as to which it was very difficult for Harden to get the next pass off to somebody. So that was kind of cool. But then against Denver, it was trapping Jamal Murray to give Jokic all the room in the world in the short roll. It was like, what the hell is this? This isn't going to work. So hopefully Ty Lue is able to do a little more with this defense. I mean, the way that we saw the Lakers defending Miami in that last game with how they closed out on shooters and how the Lakers defended Houston in a similar way, shouldn't the Clippers be able to do that? I mean, between Pat Bev, Paul George, Kawhi, and hopefully two other guys who just know what they're doing out there, they should be able to really fly around defensively and communicate and rotate on a string and all that good stuff, right? So, can Ty Lue get him to do it? We're going to have to see. As far as any other random things I remember from Ty Lue, I do remember a play he would run where it would be with like Korver and Kevin Love. It would be a baseline screen that a lot of times got either Korver an open three or Kevin Love getting something going to the basket. There's not really a shooting big on this team, so I don't know if you can reenact it to that level, but at least that showed an appreciation for just getting weird with some off-ball screening sometimes. I would assume we're still going to see Paul George moving off the ball. Maybe some of it with Kawhi, but I don't think Kawhi prefers to do it on that level. As for Montrez, I don't know if Montrez is going to be on the team, so I'm not going to speculate with him, and that affects Lou Will because that's his pick-and-roll guy. So, yeah. Do I think this is going to go well? I don't know. I still think you need leadership from the players, and that falls on Kawhi. And if he doesn't have the personality for it, well, tough crap. He better get the personality for it. There's no Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, Greg Popovich thing here. There's no Kyle Lowry thing with the Clippers. It's Kawhi. And you just need that because that's the difference between you blowing a 3-1 lead against Denver and beating them in 5 games, or you blow a lead against them but then you come back in one of the games, or whatever it may be, And I think Ty Lue can help with those things, but if the players are not 100% in, which they clearly weren't. I mean, Paul George, the guy said this was not a championship year or bust for us. Then it's not going to happen. So that's all I got.